Let's step straight into the shadows for this explainer. Today, we're diving into the history of the ancient Ram Inn. This is a 900-year-old building in England that's, well, it's widely considered to be the fifth most haunted place in the entire world. Now, picture this for a second. What actually happens when a 900-year-old building absolutely refuses to let you sleep? When the darkness itself literally feels like it's watching your every move? We're dealing with a massive timeline here. I mean, it was built way back in the 11th century, originally just to house laborers working on St. Mary's Church. So it was basically simple lodging for centuries. But jump ahead to 1968 when a man named John Humphreys bought it. And yeah, you arrive at its present-day status, an absolute modern-day nightmare. Section 1. John's Cursed Purchase. The Nightmare Begins. So imagine John moving his wife and young daughter into this historic inn. He didn't know anything about its dark history. He really just wanted to renovate the property and run a nice, peaceful guest house. But spoiler alert, that dream shattered immediately. On their very first night, John wakes up to a terrifying reality. In the pitch dark, this violent, completely unseen hand just grabs him. It forcefully pulls him straight out of bed and throws him onto the floor. When he rushes to check on his family, he finds his daughter absolutely terrified. She's just pointing at a dark, empty corner of her room, totally unable to speak. So, as you can probably guess, John's plan for peaceful guest house completely fell apart. He tried taking in lodgers just to make ends meet, but they were literally chased out by unseen forces. We're talking about invisible hands grabbing at guests' feet in the middle of the night, demonic, inhuman voices echoing down the halls, and terrified visitors fleeing out into the night, demanding to leave right that second. And then there's this deeply unsettling psychological horror sequence. Picture John walking the halls. He opens a guest's door and sees the absolute worst-case scenario. His guest's dead body lying right there on the floor. He slams the door in a panic, completely out of breath. And then he feels a hand tap his shoulder in the empty corridor. He spins around, and that exact same guest is standing right behind him, perfectly alive. The crazy part, when they opened the door together, the room was completely empty. Section 2, the failed exorcism. Confronting the demonic. At this point, thinking he was genuinely losing his mind, John brought in a local bishop to perform an exorcism and cleanse the inn. But things didn't exactly go to plan. The bishop barely lasted any time at all inside before fleeing. He flat out declared, quote, "I have faced many spirits, but the demonic force here is my life's biggest mistake." I mean, think about that. A highly trained religious official literally ran from the property. That confirmed this wasn't just your standard ghostly activity. This was pure evil. Section 3. Inside the Cursed Rooms. A tour of terror. Let's take a systematic walk through the specific locations of these horrors. Because honestly, every single room in this building holds its own unique nightmare. We'll start with what's known as the bishop's room, which, ironically enough, was actually John's personal bedroom. This room was tormented by an incredibly strong, bed-shaking entity, which is widely believed to be the corrupted spirit of a former priest who died there. The physical force in this pitch-black room was so violent, it would literally push John around in the dark. It's just so deeply unsettling that a grown man had to adopt a bizarre survival ritual just to go to sleep in his own house. Before entering his bedroom, John had to knock 3 times, ask out loud, "Is anybody there?" and wait before stepping inside. He literally had to do this just to safely cross the threshold. Moving down the hall, we hit the witch's room. According to the history, an accused witch sought refuge in this exact room back in the 15th century, right before villagers dragged her out and burned her at the stake. Even today, visitors stepping into this room report the sickening, totally unmistakable smell of burning flesh, right along with the agonizing screams of a woman. It wasn't actually until 1970 that John finally revealed the witch's gruesome history to the media. And it was that single revelation that truly put the ancient Ram Inn on the map, turning it into a massive beacon for paranormal investigators from all over the world. Now, above everything else sits the attic. This is the domain of Rosie, the spirit of a tragic little girl who took her own life. It just radiates this incredibly uncomfortable, deeply sorrowful energy. People passing underneath constantly hear the unmistakable sounds of a crying child, just begging for help. But actually, get this. Think about this for a second. John Humphreys, the man who lived in a house with a bed-shaking demon and hallucinated phantom corpses, he never dared to set foot in the attic. The owner of the house was simply too terrified to go upstairs. And sadly, they say Rosie is still up there, waiting. So there's a really terrifying contrast at play here. We just cover the upstairs, right? The witch, Rosie, the priest. We know their tragic histories. But the downstairs rooms? Their history is completely unknown. And somehow, that totally unknown history manifests as something far worse. This invisible, suffocating presence that literally paralyzes people who enter. The atmosphere downstairs is incredibly heavy. I mean, investigators who visit report genuine physical attacks, like feeling unseen hands wrapping around their throats in the dark. There's this lingering, oppressive sensation people talk about, where if 4 people stay in the downstairs rooms, it always feels like 5 are present. You're just never alone. Section 4, a trapped legacy, no escape. Let's bring this into the present day and see what happened to this legacy after John Humphreys finally passed away. The whole burden of the ancient Ram Inn fell directly to his daughter. Yes, the exact same daughter who experienced the horrors firsthand as a terrified little girl hiding on her bed on that very first night back in 1968. Today, she's the one operating the inn, giving ghost tours to anyone brave enough to actually step inside. And there is a seriously chilling theory among the people who visit. It's the idea that the spirits simply refused to let his family leave. Because he stayed his entire life, a lot of people believe John's soul never escaped, that he's now wandering those dark hallways, trapped forever among the very demons that tormented him in life. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to ponder tonight. When you wake up in the pitch dark, hear a random settling creak in your house, and look into the shadows of your own room, are you truly alone?